how serious is the threat of nuclear war in your opinion? And I know that's sort of a rhetorical question, but President Biden and President Putin have both said that we are closer than ever before to nuclear war, which includes the Cold War. And it's a lot to take in. Do you agree with their assessment?
I think 90 seconds to midnight is unfortunately a fair assessment. You might remember that the clock was which was started in 1947, also was always set in minutes. The last years of the Trump administration gave up on minutes, moved to seconds. Now it's even closer. If you take a look at the Ukraine situation, just take a look at the logic of it. By now, it's pretty hard to dismiss the position of most of the world that it's a proxy war between the United States and Russia with Ukrainian bodies on the line.
Yeah.
Been resisting that, but by now it's pretty hard to deny. The U.S. government has recognized officially that U.S. forces are now directly involved in targeting the high-precision weapons that are the most effective weapons that Ukrainians have. Tanks are being set, jet planes aren't very much in the distance. If you look at the logic of the situation, Russia and the United States, the two major, huge nuclear powers, they can each destroy everything with a tiny fraction of their nuclear arsenals. One Trident submarine, U.S. submarine, is supposed to be able to destroy about 200 cities anywhere in the world, and it's a tiny fraction of it. Well, here you have two nuclear powers faced off. Neither of them can be defeated because each can raise the ante as much as they like up to termination. Might decide not to do it, but they certainly can. So basically, neither can be defeated, and neither will agree at the current stage to negotiations. It's a death sentence. That's species suicide. The U.S. position is we should not enter into negotiations. We must continue the war in order to weaken Russia. In fact, to weaken Russia severely so that it cannot undertake any aggressive actions in the future. I don't know how you succeed in doing that without turning Russia into an agricultural society or maybe balkanizing it. But the U.S. position is war has to go on. Putin has annexed territories that weren't even contested and controversially belonged to Ukraine. So they're both committed to continuing the war. Each has the capacity to raise the ante without limits. Neither is willing to agree to being defeated. What's the conclusion? Suicide, total suicide. There's only one way out. It's the way that almost the entire world is calling for, except for in the West, the United States, Britain, German leaders, not the populations. The answer is move towards some sort of diplomatic settlement,
right,
which will keep at least put an end to escalating the horrors and destruction. The worst victims in the short run will be Ukraine.
Yeah.
As the war, they're already suffering a huge number of military casualties. Apparently not that many civilian casualties, but military casualties are enormous. Economies are going into a tailspin. If it goes on, increase the level of hostilities, it's hard to see how they can fail to suffer severely. Russia's lost tens of thousands of soldiers. In fact, most of the world, almost the entire world, is losing. Countries around the world that depend on grain fertilizer shipments from the Black Sea region, lots of starvation.
Yeah.
Europe is declining significantly from the sanctions and the cutoff of its natural trading and commercial partner, which is in the East. The European industrial system, German-based industrial system, was based extensively on ties with Russia for raw materials and resources, and of course with the huge China market behind. All of that's declining. One country in the world has been gaining, the United States. Take a look at the executive offices of fossil fuel producers, military producers, the banks that are funding them. The euphoria is unsustained.
Yeah.
New fossil fuel fields being opened for exploration. We can race to destroying human society with huge profits. It's just perfect. Meanwhile, with a fraction of the colossal military budget, the U.S. is significantly degrading the military forces of its one military adversary. It's a bargain. Not so great for the population, but they're not parties to decision making. And that's pretty much where we stand.